Good afternoon and welcome to the June Ordinary Council meeting. Item 1, acknowledgement. We, Greater Shepparton City Council, acknowledge the Yorta Yorta peoples of the land which now comprises Greater Shepparton. Pay our respect to their tribal elders. We celebrate their continuing culture and we acknowledge the memory of their ancestors. Item 2, privacy notice. This public meeting is being streamed live via our Facebook page and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at the meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses those recordings or minutes. And we do welcome members in the gallery this afternoon. Item 3, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in section 9.2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are as followed. They're listed 1 to 9 on page 5 of the agenda. Item 4, apologies. Councillors, do we have any apologies this afternoon?
Yes, we have Councillor Brophy.
Thank you, Councillor Reddy. Can I have someone second that, please? Councillor Wickham. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 5, declarations of conflict of interest. Councillors, are there anyone with conflicts this afternoon? No, thank you. Item 6, confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Are any of the minutes opposed? No. Can I have a councillor please move that recommendation? Councillor Spinks.
I'll move that the minutes of the 26th May 2026 council meeting as circulated be confirmed.
Can I have a councillor second that?
Second that, Mayor Saley.
Councillor Schubert. Councillors, all in favour? Motion carried on and closed. Item 7, public question time. I'll now hand over to our CEO, Fiona Lagasse.
Thank you, Mayor Saley. We have received the following public questions submitted to Council by Rowan Baron Parnell in accordance with our governance rules. There are 2 questions. 1, when can families in the neighbourhood surrounding the W.S. James Playground expect for there to be shade sails installed? Question 2, subsequent to the above, when decisions are made for which playgrounds receive shade sails, what are the determining factors in which the playgrounds will receive the actual shade sails being installed? I will read a collective response in terms of responding to those 2 questions. So, council officers assess all 131 council play spaces to develop a prioritised shade sail plan to inform the capital works program. These assessments consider each site's location, its position within the park hierarchy and the availability of nearby shaded play spaces, the presence of natural shade on site and the level of community use. Through this process, the W.S. James Playground was identified as a low priority for shade sail installation. The site benefits from 2 established shaded trees, one providing partial coverage over the play area, which reduces the immediate need for additional artificial shade compared to other locations. Accordingly, the playground is not included in the current capital works program. Assessments of existing shade sail structures are also undertaken to support the renewal program for assets approaching the end of their service life. These assets considered both compliance requirements and the visual conditions of each structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. Item 8, deputations and petitions not received. Over the page to page 7, item 9.1, councillor internal resolution procedure. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
So moved, Mayor Saley.
Thank you.
Motion is that the council adopt the councillor internal resolution procedure as attached.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor Saley. This internal resolution procedure is adopted under and in accordance with section 140 of the Local Government Act 2020 and regulation 12A of the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020. The procedure will be observed when dealing with alleged breaches of the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. Disputes between councillors may arise in a variety of circumstances. Fortunately, at this stage, we have minimal use for such a procedure, which is good news. This procedure is to apply to those disputes in which a councillor or group of councillors as called the complainants, alleges that another councillor or group of councillors, the respondents, has breached the Model Council Code of Conduct. This procedure provides both parties to a dispute with support and encouragement to resolve the dispute in a manner that enables the councillors to maintain effective working relationship, which is key. This procedure is designed to minimise cost and disruption of disputes to council and individual councillors, and where possible, avoid disputes escalating and becoming the subject of an internal arbitration. As I stated previously, we have required minimal use of such procedure. However, this procedure does provide guidance in a conciliation process that councillors follow to deal with and resolve conflicts, disputes, disagreements, or when dealing with alleged breaches of the Model Council Code of Conduct. Thank you, Mayor Sally.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillor Summer.
Thank you, Mayor Sally. I objected to this policy when it first came to us last year in 2025, and my concerns haven't really changed here. And the fact that it's come back to us so soon with an extra step for mediation, probably should have been in there before. It indicates that it probably does need some more consultation at least. To me, it's a procedure that is clearly drafted by lawyers, and they don't necessarily have training around the psychological impact of genuine grievance. So just by way of explanation, I think the timeline of 2 weeks is just tight. Sometimes it takes a lot longer to decide if things require resolution, and this ignores the impact of compounded trauma over time. I think it's way too easy to avoid the resolution process altogether just by refusing to participate. And across local councils in general, not here, we've seen councillors that have been reprimanded for not entering the resolution process in good faith, but that risk of not entering the resolution process is not made clear in this procedure, which could be a risk of costly investigations later on. And it's also that point about whether or not to participate is contingent on complainants being willing to take it further so they can challenge whether or not they should have participated at all. I also think that frivolous or vexation complaints are not properly vetted in this procedure. Across local governments, large amounts of money is spent on mediators, investigators and lawyers to deal with these sorts of disputes. And the councillors aren't the ones that pay these costs. The ratepayer pays the costs, and they want the basics. So unfortunately, roads, race and rubbish goes out the window, and councils can be consumed by personality wars. And this procedure doesn't have safeguards for that. It can be used as a political weapon as it stands. So complaints made for the purpose of censorship or political gain means that the ratepayer loses. So finally, this procedure relies far too stringently on the Model Code of Conduct, which was given to us by the state. It's a pretty strict document, that Code of Conduct, but not everything worthy of resolution is included in it. Almost everything, but not everything. So if the complaint sits outside the Model Code of Conduct, people with genuine grievances are at risk of being dismissed because it's not included there. So the policy does really well in covering the organisation from gross misconduct, but I don't believe it goes far enough in dealing with genuine human-to-human grievance. So I'm going to object again.
Thank you, councillors. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Other councillors like to speak against or for? Against? For? No, okay. Councillor Schubert, right to reply?
Yes, look, I'm hearing what Councillor Summer is saying, but this procedure has been reviewed in accordance with the recently issued update provided by Maddox lawyers. Maddox lawyers have an industrial relations team. They have a wealth of expertise in this area. We rely heavily on Maddox within council, and I would judge Maddox understanding of this procedure to be experts. So that's why, again, I endorse the motion that we accept this resolution procedure.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillors, if there's nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Councillors, page 9, item 9.2, contracts awarded under delegation, May 2026. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Summer.
I'll move that the council note that one contract has been awarded under delegation pursuant to a formal procurement process for the reporting period, and 2, note the request for tenders advertised but not yet awarded.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Summer, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'll speak to one of them, which is contract number 2427, electric line clearance tree pruning services. And I want to speak to that because I watched a Metropolitan Council meeting online, and they were considering something called bundling as part of their urban forest strategy. Bundling is a process of binding electric lines together so that tree pruning is less drastic. We get a lot of feedback from people who aren't happy with the service, and we've seen even in Welsford Street around the corner how drastic it can look. And it may even reduce hang on, I'll start again. It would reduce the required clearance. At the moment we need 3 metres on either side of the lines, but this would reduce it to 0.5 metres. So not only would this save us money by using less manpower, it would also increase our canopy on the established trees that we have. It would prevent concrete warming in summer better because it has more foliage, and it will allow wildlife to thrive. So my hope is that we can investigate this prior to our next tree pruning contract and put it in our own urban forest strategy. But I thought since it came up, I'll use the opportunity to make that suggestion.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Summer. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Very good. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, page 11, item 9.3, May 2026 financial report. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Happy to
Councillor Aiken.
move that council note the May 26 financial report is attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Sarley. I mean, the financial position is basically on track at the end of May, which is good to see. The year-to-date operating performance has a surplus of 9.8 million. This is 5.2 million lower than the year-to-date adopted budget, due mostly to the timing of recurrent capital grants income and an increase in depreciation due to a revaluation of assets in 24-25, and as I've said a number of times, we've got another revaluation coming at us with a significant increase in the value of Greater Shepparton's assets over the last few months. Council's projected full-year operating result is a surplus of 1.9 million. This is 2.1 million less than the adopted budget, and the movement compared to the budget's mostly due to an increase in materials and services and that depreciation, and this was partially offset by an additional insurance settlements for the 22 floods. The year-to-date capital works expenditure is 52.1 million, which is slightly lower than the year-to-date adopted budget due to a timing of project delivery. The full-year forecast for capital works expenditure is still at 71.4 million, and this is 5 million higher than the adopted budget and 1.3 million lower than the Q3 review. But good to see capital works are well on track, and congratulations to that team, assuming that we get there by the end of the month, well over 90% and close to 100% of capital works being expended in the 25-26 year, which is a fantastic result, and will leave very little excuse, seeming we brought the budget approval forward a month for 26-27. So look, the books are basically in line with budget.
Very good. Councillor Akers. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
I just quickly note on behalf of Councillor Brophy, the liquidity numbers looking great again, 170%, excellent.
What you were going to say? Very good. Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, we go to item 9.4, which is on page 14, 15 and 16. Item 9.4 is 2026/2027 rates and charges. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward?
Happy to move.
Please. Councillor Akers.
I'm happy to move that the council declare the following rates and charges for the 26/27 financial year as laid out on page 14, 15 and 16, and I'm sure you don't want me to read it all out.
No, very good. Thank you, councillor Akers.
Thank you,
Is
councillor
there
Akers.
a councillor that would like to second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Thank you. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Sarley. Thank you again to the staff and the team for the work they put in preparing the rates and charges for the 26/27 year. There's a lot of work going into it, and we appreciate the detail that they've explained to us. It's presented here to declare the rates and charges for the 26/27 year in accordance with section 158 and section 162 of the Local Government Act 1989, and it's consistent with our revenue and rating plan, which we completed last year for 25/29, and it was adopted at our June council meeting in 2025. The adopted budget does include the 2.75% increase in total revenue as a result of the fair go rate cap, and council has been able to also decrease curbside charges, which on average will decrease a household's total service charges by 4.3%. So that's an encouraging result for us to be able to take out to the community. In total, council will generate $102.3 million from rates and charges, excluding supplementary valuations and interest. Individual rate accounts, people need to understand, may differ by more than the 2.75%, and that will be due to individual property valuations changing relative to other valuations within the municipality, but the fair go rate cap ensures that council's total additional revenue doesn't increase by more than the 2.75%. The rating structure for the year has informed the revenue and rating plan, and the plan determines that the most appropriate and affordable revenue and rating approach is across the municipality. The plan determines that only the share of revenue contributed by each property, not the total amount of the rates collected by council. And we also still maintain the differential rating category, which has got general at 100%, farm at 80%, and commercial industrial at 210. So just to highlight, I guess, the curbside waste, the 80 litre curbside waste will have a reduction of $16.50, as will 120 litre curbside waste reduced by $16.50, and the 240 waste will reduce by $19.50. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, councillor Akers. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any against?
Yeah, thank you.
No worries.
Alright, so rather than explain my objection, because I think it's going to be very clear once I move the foreshadowed motion that I have in front of me, and you've all got that in front of me, and I'll use my time to speak to that. So the foreshadowed motion reads, point 9, review the following documents in preparation for setting the 2026-28 rates and charges, which should be next year. Review the curbside landfill waste recycling and organics policy, which was effective 21st of February 2023 and was due for review 21st of February 2026.
Councillor Summer, sorry, I just need to put, speaking against the motion isn't an opportunity for you to foreshadow the motion.
Sure, can we confirm? I think it is.
You're reading out the motion, you're not speaking against the motion.
Yes, because it explains my objection.
No, you've got to state that you're objecting to this, not foreshadowing a motion, which is what you're
I'm
doing.
objecting so that it's lost, and then my foreshadowed motion would be up. So I think you might want to.
Foreshadow a motion any time during the day, but that's not speaking. So they're two separate procedural things.
Thank you.
Can I read to the foreshadowed motion as an objection?
It's not objecting, it's moving, it's
Yeah.
moving the foreshadow motions, it's not I choose speaking against the motion, but it can be done during this debate process.
I'm confused.
So you can speak against the motion and give your reasons as to why, but you can't say you're going to foreshadow a motion and then effectively read out that foreshadowed motion.
Why not?
They're two separate processes. You can do both, but it's not the same thing.
So if I say I want to foreshadow a motion,
That's different to speaking against the motion. is what we're trying
but I don't get the opportunity to read it out when I say that,
You can state what the motion is.
I would like to foreshadow this motion. And then can I speak in an objection to the motion?
So you can foreshadow the motion and you're able to read out what the foreshadowed motion would be, but that's where that ends. And then your objection to the motion, you can reflect the reasons why you would want to foreshadow in your speaking against. That doesn't allow you to read it.
With that, I'll read it out.
Yep.
And then the 6 minutes for my objection to the current motion, correct?
You read out
Read
the
out the
foreshadow.
form.
Well, I think I've done the curbside one and the other, okay. Point 9, as I've already read, and review Greater Shepparton City Council Financial Plan 2025 to 2035, noting proposed changes may require public consultation. Review the financial hardship policy effective 15th of September 2020 and was up for review August 2024. Rates rebates for retail land occupied by charitable organisation policy, which was effective 1st of July 2025 and isn't due for review until March 2029. That's the foreshadowed document for the current.
And obviously
Yes.
if this motion is lost, then that's where the foreshadow would be considered. So now, obviously, if you speak against the motion,
Right, all right. So while these policies that I've just read out are left in place, I understand that councillors cannot make sweeping changes to the rates and charges that are presented in front of us today. And even though that has been communicated, that's despite our waste policy still making no mention of 360 litre recycle bins, which we did go ahead with, that's been introduced since that policy. So that waste policy should have been reviewed by February this year, and personally, I'd really like it done as a matter of urgency so that it can inform our next rates and charges plan. And I'd also like to revisit the fortnightly general bin collection and possibly give consideration to an opt-out option for the purple glass bin, but until we properly review that plan, it can't happen in these rates and in this motion. So councillors, if we are doing our job properly, we will hold the organisation to account and update overdue policies whether or not this foreshadowed motion gets up. Really, the contentious part of this motion is reviewing the long-term financial plan and the charitable organisation policy. They're inherently linked and they're not up for review yet. Under the Local Government Act 2020, the long-term financial plan must be set very early in the council term and mid-term reviews are discouraged. However, we set these parameters before councillors can properly grasp the impacts on community. So I don't believe that is a great way of doing it. So I don't agree with the Local Government Act 2020. And the requirement for consultation would not be resource intensive, I also don't believe, because we go out to consultation all the time and don't often get a whole lot of feedback in return. But what a review will allow is consideration of contentious issues like the municipal charge. Now, I understand it's in this motion. It's a $195 flat fee that's levied across all the rateable properties. It doesn't change the total amounts of rates that are collected, but it does go into the total rating pool. And what this means is that higher valued properties pay considerably less. A municipal charge essentially offers a substantial discount, people don't like that word, but that's what it does, for high-flying corporations, for instance, who arguably don't pay their fair share, while lower-rated properties do the heavy lifting financially. It's never sat well with me. This municipal charge will be vocal for many years, and particularly during a cost of living crisis, might actually be looked at properly. So some properties might see an increase in their rates if we get rid of the municipal charge, but for many, it will offer a tangible rate reduction for some residents. And yes, it's not policy on the run to want to review things. So I'm not asking for changes to the rates and charges today. I'm just asking for a review so we can properly look at things, because saying that we can't change things because other things are in place has been a bugbear, I guess you'd say, through my whole council career. And I'm in the middle of the term right now, and I'm going to have a good effort to try and fix the policies so that we can actually change the rates and charges halfway through.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Councillor Spinks.
Thank you. Happy to support the motion as it's presented right now. I have no problem. I mean, if there are policies that need to be reviewed or that a councillor considers needing to be reviewed earlier, then we can absolutely have a conversation about that. I was not aware this was coming to the council meeting, so I guess that's a conversation we can certainly have, and if still needed, can't be done internally, we can have that conversation and consider it at the next council meeting. But for now, for accepting our rates and charges, very comfortable to do so. Very proud that there is a reduction in the bin costing, waste charges, because it's a result of the good work that's happening through our better diversion practices, which is part of that long-term plan, which leads into the hard waste discussion, which is another item coming up in this agenda. But also wanted to take the moment to remind the community, and I guess re-raise the importance of, we do have a hardship policy, and if there is community members out there that are struggling at any point through the year to pay their rates, we have a team that are ready and willing to support you to be able to meet those obligations. It's just a matter of a phone call and making contact. So I encourage the community, if you fall into strife, which happens, to reach out. That's the first step, and from there it can be supported. So yeah, just taking that moment.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Any other councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? Right or reply, Councillor Akers?
Well, thank you, Mayor Sarley. I'm still very comfortable to accept the recommended rates and charges that are presented. We've spent considerable time reviewing them as a council over the last few months, and as I said, the staff have put considerable work in making recommendations to us, and particularly around rubbish as well. We've had a number of sessions on it and discussions on it, and that's why we've agreed to go the current course, because of that we believe we are on the right track. Municipal charges, well, I mean, that review is once every 4 years as far as we can review it in the middle, but we agreed to it for the 25-29 year term last year, and as I said, we signed off on that last June. It can be reviewed, but I mean, we've agreed to that for this current term at this point in time. And as I said, we've had considerable discussion and review about rubbish, and the results indicate that we should stick with what we've got, and I think I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Akers. Councillors, if there's nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Voting?
I'll vote in favour, it's fine.
All right, councillors, I'll do it again. All those in favour? Motion carried, unopposed. Councillors, page 20, item 10.1, Murray Darling Basin Plan Discussion Paper 2026, Greater Shepparton City Council submission. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Akers.
Happy to move that council note the submission prepared and lodged by Greater Shepparton City Council on 1 May 2026 as part of the consultation on the Murray Darling Basin Plan Review Discussion Paper as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Akers, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, thanks, Mayor Sarley. Yes, we have made a submission, and this is the timelines were tight, and we approved it at briefings, and it's come to an official council meeting for kick-off. The Murray-Darling Basin Authority has commenced its statutory 2026 Basin Plan Review and released the Basin Plan Review discussion paper as part of the consultation process, and that's the paper that we've responded to and many others in the community have. The review will inform future water management settings across the basin, and certainly has the potential to influence water availability, the reliability of water, and policy direction beyond 2026. We at Greater Shepparton City Council lodged a submission in response to the discussion paper to ensure the interests and the circumstances of the municipality are clearly communicated as part of the review. There's a strong reliance on irrigated agriculture, food manufacturing and associated supply chains in this region. And water security, therefore, it plays a central role to the region's employment base, its economic output and the long-term resilience of Greater Shepparton. The submission draws on independent economic analysis prepared by Frontier Economics, which we certainly did in conjunction with the Murray River group of councils, which it was good to work with them and make sure that we had the issues for the region well analysed in a very economical manner. And it also draws on established authoritative sources, including the Golden Broken Catchment Management Authority, the Victorian Farmers Federation, Golden Murray Water, as well as the Bureau of Statistics and ABARES. The analysis demonstrates the impacts of the Basin Plan, what water recovery has been. It's been cumulative and it's been unevenly distributed across irrigation-dependent regions, such as Greater Shepparton. And I think, you know, there's no doubt that many of the lower basin communities have experienced a disproportionate burden of the water recovery that has occurred. The submission supports the objective healthy river systems, but highlights evidence that key Victorian systems and with that, the current sustainable diversion limits are assessed as likely to or confident that they do reflect a sustainable level of take from the river. The authority assessments also interestingly indicates that additional water recovery does not materially change the likelihood of achieving further environmental outcomes. And in these systems, and particularly the Goulburn system, with the remaining risks driven primarily by flow patterns, delivery constraints and system functions rather than a volume of water. So it's important that we get back to making sure that that we're getting outcomes and not just hitting a target for water recovery for the Murray-Darling Basin. In this context, our submission emphasises the need for greater certainty, consolidation of existing reforms and improved use of management of environmental water rather than further reductions in productive water in highly adjusted systems. It calls for clearer limits to sequencing and improved modelling of alternative policy pathways and more strategic approaches to the future water recovery, stronger place-based decision-making and alignment between water policy and broader government objectives, including food security. And I mean, it's and regional development and manufacturing. I mean, it's a real challenge that, you know, food security is a major thing for a federal government, yet we want to continue to take water out of productive agriculture. Purpose of our submission is not to preempt decisions, but to provide place-based evidence and perspectives to inform the Basin Plan review and support balanced outcomes that protect both environmental health and the long-term viability of regional communities. The Council's submission to the Murray-Darling Basin Authority consisted of a cover letter and the supporting independent analysis provided by Frontier Economics. Thank you.
Councillor Akers. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? No, we'll go to the, oh yeah, Councillor Shepparton.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Sarley. This recommendation has to strike a balance between, as Councillor Akers says, between supply of food and environmental outcomes. So as we see it, I'll get these figures wrong, but you'll understand, around about 25% of the water is put aside for food production, towns, stock and domestic and things like that. The 75% of the water of the Murray-Darling Basin goes down the river. So I think the standard I haven't got the figures to back this up, is around about 28 to 32% in other countries. So I think we are well below the water that's needed to provide security of food and also security of long-term prospects in small towns and associated, the underpinning of all our what we do here as far as horticulture, things like that. So I hope this plan does strike a balance and give back to the necessary industries and the environment at the same time. So putting this plan forward, I'd been that with you, Jeff. Thank you.
Any other councillors like to speak to the motion? No, if there's nothing else, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on opposed. Councillors, page 32, item 10.2, compliance and enforcement policy. There is a recommendation. Can I have the councillor put that forward as a motion?
Move, Mayor Saleh, thank you.
Councillor Shivett.
Recommendation is that the council adopt the compliance and enforcement policy as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
I'll second that motion.
Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak to the motion?
Made a couple of notes, thank you, Mayor Saleh. Council is responsible for administering a wide range of legislation, regulations and local laws, providing for the safety, health and amenity of the community. Council recognises the importance of compliance with these requirements and is committed to undertaking a compliance action when required to reduce amenity impacts, maintain trust and meet community expectations. This policy serves to ensure that the council's compliance and enforcement functions are fair, consistent and without bias and in accordance with the legislation. It outlines the graduated risk-based approach to managing non-compliance. It assists council officers to respond promptly, consistently and effectively to complaints of unlawful activity and to undertake proactive investigation of unlawful activity in accordance with the relevant legislation, regulations or local laws. It serves to educate the community on the legislation, regulations or local laws that impact them and encourage compliance with the legal obligations to prevent further or repeated instances of non-compliance. It also ensures that the level of compliance undertaken is proportionate to the nature and seriousness of the offence, which is a key in my opinion, and it provides a framework for compliance and enforcement action undertaken by council's delegated officers by setting out the rationale, objectives, priorities and intended outcomes of council's actions in accordance with legislative requirements. Council will use a range of strategies to achieve legislative compliance in the community, and this is part of one of the things that the council will use. Thank you, Mayor Saleh.
Thank you, Councillor Schubert. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a dry one, but I like this part of the report that gives a couple of examples. I'm just going to read it out because it makes it clear. If council receives a report of an alleged barking dog at the same time as a report of an alleged dog attack, the dog attack will be prioritised due to the immediate risk to public safety. Or similarly, a report concerning an unapproved carport would be given lower priority than an unfenced swimming pool, as the latter presents significant and immediate risk to human life. And I like when you take a policy like this, which can seem quite dry and difficult to put into real life scenarios, but this is what it means and this is how it will be enacted. And what it gives is the consistency, which is both for the community and also for the council staff who are encountering these situations, and that's an important thing. So it's a good policy to just provide that boundary and guidance of how to manage those situations, which happen all the time.
Councillor Spinks. Any councillor like to speak against the motion? Any councillor like to speak for the motion? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried on opposed. Councillors, page 35, item 11.1, roadside real policy. There is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
I'll move that the council adopt the roadside fatality memorial policy as attached.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion? Councillor Wickett. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, there's nothing dry about this one. This is a terrible policy to need to have, but it's important, and what it mostly focuses on is making sure that when a terrible thing happens on our roads, that there is a way for the family or impacted community members to be able to respectfully memorialise a site while also maintaining the safety of the roadside and the road users at the same time. It's just about making sure that we're balancing that need for, I guess, the emotional and the personal with the continued safety of the surrounding environment. So an important, unfortunate but important policy to have.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Any councillor like to speak against the motion? Any councillors like to speak for the motion? All those in favour? Motion carried. Closed. Councillors, we go to page 38 of the agenda, item 11.2, hard waste collection service revised commencement. There is a recommendation. Can I have the councillor put that forward as a motion, please? Councillor Spinks.
Yep, I'd love to move that the council, 1, note that the open tender process for contract number 2465 hard waste collection services was unsuccessful and subsequently abandoned, and 2, authorise the postponement of the resource recovery hard waste collection services, which was due to commence from 1st July 2026, as previously resolved by council, and 3, approve the revised commencement of the resource recovery hard waste collection service within the 2027-28 financial year, subject to the successful completion of an open tender process in the 2026-27 financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please? Councillor Wickham. Councillor Spinks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes. So this is a little bit just procedural and a little bit purposeful, in that when we moved the original motion to commence the hard waste collection process, we set a deadline for that process to begin the 1st July 2026. The reality of what we went into was different to what we expected, and that deadline is no longer realistic. So what we need to do is formally, in this setting, retract that deadline and reissue the intent of the hard waste collection with a new timeline. So that's the procedural part. The purposeful part is that we are still committed to the hard waste collection process being undertaken. So what we learnt from the original tender was that we had different expectations to what the market had, and that meant that the tender process originally undertaken didn't end up being viable, which is okay. We live and we learn and we keep moving forwards. What this opportunity gives us is a chance to debrief, to learn, and to go at it again from a different direction. Ultimately, we are still committed to investigating and intending to deliver a hard waste collection service for our community. We know that hard waste is the best way for every community member to have access to a at your front door collection service, so that we don't have to, or the many people who don't have access to a trailer, don't have access to the resource centres for whatever reason, can still partake and have the service equally provided to them. As well, the hard waste service bypasses the contentiousness around landlord versus, or home property owner versus tenant responsibility or opportunity. Hard waste, that isn't the same problem for hard waste. So this is the direction we know we want to go into, and this motion in front of us today is us recommitting to that, and recommitting to going through another tender process throughout this next financial year, 26-27, with the intention of beginning a service in the 27-28 financial year without a hard and fast 1st July deadline that has seen us having to come back today. So this is, while it looks like we are having to postpone and take more time to do this, that's still an exciting thing. It means we're heading in the right direction, we're learning how best to deliver it for our community, and we're making sure we're not accepting a subpar service for our community. We're making sure we get it right the first time, and we take the time we need to do that.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Spinks. Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
Like Councillor Spinks said, we don't want something subpar, and obviously in Greater Shepparton we have a large area to cover which encapsulates a lot of urban and also rural areas. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see how we can come up with a solution that meets everyone's needs across the municipality. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wickham. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? For,
I'd like to foreshadow the motion, please.
no problem.
Can I read it out?
Yep.
Dot point 4, with the addition of dot point 4, present a report at the next council meeting that outlines steps toward commencing a ticket service as an interim waste collection measure. This report will outline feasibility, high-level costings, and the earliest possible commencement date.
Did you want to speak against the current motion?
I would, yes, please. Yeah, so since the introduction of fortnight general bin collections, some pockets of our community have stockpiles of waste, which we were hoping to deal with through the hard rubbish collection. Our core duty as council are roads, rates and rubbish. And personally, I don't think we're doing enough in the waste space. Dumped rubbish is a scourge, and we do need to find ways to curb these behaviours. And even though not everybody has a trailer, tip tickets would go some way toward managing the problem in lieu of a hard rubbish collection. But whatever, we might have to wait more than 12 months to get another hard rubbish collection, and I just can't support that unless we offer residents other tools to take pride in their town. So other tools could include tip tickets, and it would offer valuable data for formulating the next hard rubbish tender. And it's important to know how quickly we could implement that, because waiting would defeat the purpose of it being an interim measure, which is what we need while we wait for this hard rubbish collection to go back out to tender, and there's no guarantee that it would be successful. So again, it's not policy on the run. I'm only asking for a report on tickets so that we can do something about the waste while we wait for a hard rubbish collection.
Thank you, Councillor Summer. Any councillors like to speak for the motion? Okay, councillors, if there's nothing else, write a reply, councillors.
Thank you, yes. I suppose the only thing to respond to would be the alternative motion suggested in that right of reply, just making sure I stay on topic. The hard rubbish, the long-term strategic direction is to make sure that we're providing the best services to the community. That's what we're working on. That's the whole part of this process. So if at the end of it, it works out that a mix of hard rubbish and tip tickets is the best format for our community, then that is what will come through in this. But in the meantime, we need to be busy working on making sure we're aiming towards that long-term strategic best outcome. We have actually been provided with information, so I'm not sure what a new report would share. We know it would cost a few $100,000 to roll out, and that it wouldn't serve all of our community. So while I recognise the intention behind the interim suggestion, it wouldn't meet the need that we're trying to aim for. So I wouldn't, I don't think it supports the motion that's in front of us today. So I'm happy to continue supporting this.
Yeah, that's point of order.
What we've discussed in briefing shouldn't be mentioned in meetings, is this correct, publicly?
It's been requested previously at a council meeting, at that report.
There wasn't a specific figure.
Point of clarification, the main point to me was how soon we could get it.
Okay, thank you. Did you want that clarification, or
That was the point of the report that I'm asking for.
not the cost of?
So transparency around the cost and all the things. Yeah.
That's fine. Okay, thank you. Nothing else, councillor Spinks? Okay, councillors, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Motion carried. Page 42, item 12, documents for signing and sealing or received. Item 13.1, council activities. May 2026, there is a recommendation. Can I have a councillor put that forward as a motion? This is for time, councillor Wickham, to just continue the councillor Brophy. Move this one.
I'll move the motion.
I'll second it.
Councillor Wickham,
Sorry.
you would like to move it, councillor Wickham?
Yep, move that the council receive and note the summary of the councillors' community interactions and formal meetings of councillors.
Thank you. Can I have a councillor second that motion, please?
So seconded, Mayor Saley. Yeah.
Councillor Wickham, would you like to speak to the motion?
They're all listed there on 43 and 44.
Very good. Thank you. Nice and efficient. Councillor Schubert, would you like to speak?
Just very quickly, look, I think this is a very, very good thing to display on a monthly basis. It proves that the councillors are out there, and I think we've sort of reached a conclusion, and it's very, very few community events. There's not at least one councillor present, and that's been sort of our modus operandi now since we've come to council, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and it's certainly proving that council's getting out there amongst the ratepayers we represent, which is outstanding.
Thank you, Councillor Shepard. Any councillors like to speak against the motion? Councillors like to speak for the motion? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Motion carried unopposed. Councillors, page 45, item 14, notice of motion, amendment or rescission or received. Item 15, urgent business not included on the agenda. Any urgent business? Before I close the meeting, on behalf of Greater Shepparton City Council and councillors, I would like to acknowledge and farewell Gary Wandawa, who is our infrastructure director. He's been with us for 4 years. I think you would have started just before the flood, so coming at a very challenging time for our community. He moved his family here, he's had his child, a newborn here, fully invested into our community, and has been extremely respectful of councillors' previous term and obviously this current term as well. You've had an impact on our community, and your commitment to Greater Shepparton and the organisation is noted, and we appreciate that commitment that you've afforded us and the relationship and friendship that you've given us as well. So we wish you all the very best for what is next, but on behalf of the organisation and councillors, thank you very much, Gary, and all the best for what's next. Thank you.
Gary.
Councillors, I will now close the meeting at 3:51 p.m.